Think we're live? Yes, we're live. Okay. Good morning, beloveds. It is the last day of April, which means it's my brother's birthday. Okay. Yeah. I got up, went for a walk, took a shower. I'm still not sure I'm awake. Yeah. Okay. Living the science of mind. That's what we are doing. So let's do the housekeeping really quick, which is simply, we are Creative Life Spiritual Center. The website is creativelife.org. The constant contact email is info@creativelife.org. It's one email a week unless something unusual happens. Hot links are hot. Blind CC, nobody will get your email because of us. So, and then the social medias are Creative Life Spiritual Center or Creative Life Spark. And I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. And every time I say that, I miss running. There may be a time I'll be able to get back to it, but not right now. And what we ask you to do is go like, subscribe, share, follow, comment, because it will bump us in the algorithms. We don't want to deal with the ads any more than you do. We don't monetize them. So what we ask you to do is engage with our pages, and that's how you do it. All right. That should be it. So let's move on into it. Yesterday we had a brief history of New Thought, and today the essay. And what I'll do is I'll remind you that the essays in this book came out of his at-home course. I guess maybe that's the best way to call it, at-home course. It was in the back of the Science of Mind magazine. You could send off for it, and every week they would send you a new lesson. So there were like 48 lessons, which they did collate into a series. I think it was like 4 or 6 books where all the lessons are in there, which I think Reverend Dana is looking at, but we'll see because it's a lot. Now, on the other hand, what this book is they collected the essays out of that take-home course, but they're not chronological. They are grouped by subject, which is why yesterday we had a brief history of the New Thought, and today we have the New Thought movement. I don't know what the essay is about. I'm sure I've read it because there's pencil markings all over it. So it's just been a minute since I've read it, which is part of the reason why I'm really enjoying doing this, and I hope you are too. All right. So, New Thought, the New Thought movement. I got to figure out where to put my. There we go. All right. Whew, deep breath. The New Thought movement is essentially spiritual, dealing with the laws of mind. It is also scientific. It assumes that God is not only the final reality, God is the only present reality. Everything that is real is of God. Our own being is God manifest as personality. The New Thought movement has been likened to applied Christianity. Now, I'm going to remind you, this is Ernest Holmes writing this, okay? It is both unique and practical since it seeks to make definite use of spiritual power in everyday living. This attempt to reevaluate the philosophy of Christianity in terms of practical application definitely originated in the New Thought movement and became its chief impulsion, its outstanding characteristic. It is this practical application of spiritual causation to human needs which has drawn the attention of millions of people in America and other millions throughout the world to a new outlook on life and to a new hope. Whatever the New Thought movement may owe to other systems, and it owes much, it is unique in this. It has placed a new and dynamic meaning on the relationship between God and people, between the invisible and the visible. With Jesus, it has insisted that faith shall be made manifest in works, that the creative power of God is individualized in every soul. Spiritual faith, belief, and conviction are not merely terms used to designate the devotional life. They are dynamic and creative instruments to be used in everyday living. That's why we're more of a philosophy than religion, because we actually practice this stuff. Like, we use this every day in as many moments as we can manage. All right. While there is a wide range of opinion among the New Thought leaders, teachers, practitioners, and lay people, this one underlying purpose runs through the entire movement. And I want to remind you here, when he says the entire movement, he's including unity, divine science, Christian science, science of mind, all of those, probably the Unitarian movement. So like, he's not just talking about science of mind here. He's talking about the entire New Thought, theosophy? Yeah, spiritualism, all of them. Okay. The immediate availability of good, conscious, and practical application of spiritual thought force to the solution of human problems, the inevitable necessity that good shall come to every soul, the belief in immortality and the continuity of the individual stream of consciousness and eternal expansion of the individual life, the awakening, not to an absorption of people's identity in deity, but to their complete unity with the whole. Thus, every person becomes an individualized center of God consciousness, eternally expanding. The New Thought movement is metaphysical, but not in a strict philosophical sense. I just said we were more of a philosophy and he's disagreeing with me. All right. Metaphysics in terms of New Thought means practical idealism. In other words, we don't sit around and just talk about it. We actually go out and do it, which emphasizes spiritual causation and the accessibility of spiritual mind power, acting in accord with law and available to all people. From this standpoint, Christian metaphysics means the philosophy of the New Testament practiced as a science. It is the purpose of the New Thought movement to prove the teachings of Jesus relative to the spiritual universe and people's relationship to it. The New Thought movement, in many ways, is unlike most of the Oriental teachings, for in following the philosophy of Jesus more closely than that of other teachers of antiquity, it emphasizes the importance of individualism. In this, it is quite American, which is natural since the movement started here. That is one of, and I will freely admit, it's one of my critiques of America is the rugged individualism. It's like, it's pull yourself up by your bootstraps. No. That's the whole point of community. Community is meant to support each other. The rugged individualism is definitely American. So that is part of the reason why the New Thought is very individual, but we still believe in community. Otherwise, what's the point of the centers? Okay, let's see. Yet, it would be a mistake to deny the heritage which this movement has received from many sources. It is an outgrowth of all that has gone before. It has borrowed much from the idealistic philosophies of the ages, particularly Plato, Socrates, and the Neoplatonists. It has been profoundly influenced by the teachings of the Jewish Testament, the precepts of Buddha, and the sacred writings of the East, Hinduism, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads. So that's what he's talking about when he says the sacred writings of the East. It owes an enormous debt of gratitude to the many spiritual philosophies of the Middle Ages, and in our own country in particularly, it is particularly indebted to Emerson and many others whose writings we are all familiar. Ralph Waldo Emerson, The Ethics of New Thought. That's one of the things that I know Jesse said it. I'm sure it's written in a book somewhere too. But as much as it owes to other systems of thought, it is still a unique American institution in that it started in this country, and although it has spread over the world, it has flourished and grown here more than anywhere else. Although we have a center in Cuba. That's just really cool. I don't know. I guess loosely we could call it a center. There is a practitioner. So, and there may be more than one. I know there's one. I've interacted with her briefly. Okay. let's see. It would probably be safe to estimate that from 15 to 20 million people in America today are influenced by his teachings. Well, I hope it's a lot more than that, but I don't know. The movement itself is the outcome of a number of contemporaneous systems of thought which have emphasized the inner life. As Dresser stated in his History of the New Thought Movement, the last century witnessed the recovery of the inner life. The new age bids us go to the source of ourselves. Probably more than on the work of any other one person, the New Thought Movement of America has been built upon the teachings of Phineas Quimby, who was born in New Hampshire in 1802 and who passed from this plane in the state of Maine in 1866. This man was one of the few original thinkers of the ages. He had a deep intuition as well as an unusually pronounced psychic development. He believed that we are living in a spiritual universe now, but that the freedom of our choice, backed by the law of mind, makes possible the experience of discord and limitation. He said, "Can a theory be found capable of practice which can separate truth from error? I undertake to say there is a method of reasoning which, being understood, can separate one from the other. Man is made up of truth and belief, and if he is deceived into a belief that he has or is liable to have a disease, the belief is catching and the effect follows it." Quote from Quimby. Quimby laid his chief emphasis on spiritual mind healing rather than on the control of conditions through the creative power of thought. He claimed that disease is but a dream from which one may be awakened. His method, according to his son George Quimby, was to change the mind of the patient and disabuse it of its error and establish the truth in its place, which, if done, was the cure. And he cured himself of tuberculosis, so, he's on something. He was onto something. He was completely convinced that the creative spirit within us is God and that we have an immediate relationship to the divine. This relationship is creative. Quimby never sought to control others. He made no suggestion to them. That is, he did not practice suggestive therapeutics. His whole method of procedure was spiritual explanation. His idea was that symptoms would disappear with the changed viewpoint. In this, he anticipated the discoveries of modern psychology, except that his was a more spiritual method. He spoke of mind as spiritual substance and often referred to what he called the real or spiritual person who needed to be summoned to the aid of the person who is mentally and physically sick. Quimby believed in a spiritual body. He taught that there is no disease independent of the mind. Thus, he said, disease being in its root a wrong belief, change the belief and it will cure the disease. By faith, we are thus made whole. The New Thought movement in America today owes much to this man's life, teaching, and practice. Most of its early teachers were instructed by him. Thus, we find most of them emphasizing the divine spark in people, which, despite all appearances to the contrary, is always there. Shortly after Quimby passed in 1866, several of his devout students, most of whom he had healed, began to teach and write. Each branched out freely and naturally. Each added their own ideas to what they had received from Quimby. Among those early teachers were people who had already been theologically trained, several of them in the Swedenborgian Church. Say that 5 times fast. And it was not difficult for them to follow Quimby since they had already been taught to believe in a law of spiritual correspondences. Whatever the difference of opinion among these earlier teachers may have been, they all seem unanimous in emphasizing mental and spiritual causation and the thought that the material universe possesses no independent life and intelligence. Of course, this was before the day of new physics. They all taught that spiritual mind healing of the physical body is the result of touching the springs of life in the soul of the patient. Naturally, the different teachers chose different names, such as divine science, metaphysical clubs, applied Christianity, practical Christianity, and innumerable other names. And in England, the term higher thought was used, all of which have a common meaning. The New Thought movement has always been very individual and in many respects has stood for a protest against ecclesiastical or spiritual authority, meaning there's nothing between you and God. You don't need a priest to talk to God. You don't need, you yourself can do it. That's where that rugged individualism comes in. A community comes together to remind itself of this, but you have the power to go directly to the source of your being. That's what we're talking about here. All right, let me get back to this. Finally, an attempt was made to weld the whole movement into a national alliance for the purpose of clarity of thought and the dissemination of its teaching. I wonder how that worked out. The following declaration of purpose was taken from one of its earliest records. Organized to promote an active interest in a more spiritual philosophy and its practical application to human life, its spirit is broad, tolerant, and constructive. Its object, an impartial search for the truth. All who sympathize with these purposes, without regard to past or present affiliations of sect, party, or system, are cordially invited to cooperate. That's very nice. In another statement drawn at an earlier date, we read, it seeks the spark of infinitude in the seemingly finite, and seeks to fan it into a blaze that shall be the light of the world. It is therefore striving to bring into hearty cooperation all the individual potencies that have tended towards the high end which it has in view, believing that thus a restless impulse might be given to the development of life on the highest attainable plane. It was the purpose of the New Thought movement not only to stand for a method of spiritual healing, but for a positive and affirmative philosophic idealism of religion, of applied Christianity, and to emphasize the rediscovery of the gospel teaching relative to healing and everyday life. Oh, that was a lot. Tomorrow, we talk about religious science. I mean, that's the title of it, religious science. So, he's given us a history, and, I need to get in here early because that was a long one. He's given us a history, and, yeah. Oh, I'd be curious to know how, did they have conventions? Did they all get together, periodically? I bet Jesse knows. That would be a question for Jesse. So there we go. More history of New Thought. I really enjoy the science of mind because it's like having a conversation with Ernest. And most likely what happened is somebody wrote him a question, wrote him and said, hey, what about this? And so he wrote an essay. Here's what I think. So it's more personal and, it's a little easier reading than the Science of Mind text. I know, because I've done that. All right, beloveds. I'm going to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonderful day, an awesome day, an amazing day, a take care of yourself day, a let's prepare for the weather day. We're looking at some rain. And I know there's some storms depending on where you are. It sounds like Dallas needs to prep pretty good. So prep for the weather day, enjoy the breeze day, a drink plenty of water day, a cuddle your fur babies day, a don't step on your fur babies day. I stepped on one of them day and she wanted nothing to do with me for a good 20 minutes. I have been forgiven though. A tell somebody you love them day, a do what you gotta do day, a take a break day, a take care of yourself day, a you got this day, a good day. And if that's too much pressure, simply have a day. You are enough just as you are. You are a beloved expression of the divine. You are a brilliant light, a divine spark, spirit in motion, God in action, a beautiful masterpiece, and a work in progress at the same time, at your own pace. And as Reverend Jesse likes to call us, you are godly. All right, beloveds. Oh, it's clearly allergy season. Take a deep breath. Ooh, nope, that was a bad idea. I need to drink water. Ooh. And I didn't bring it with me. So I will wrap this up by reminding you to explore the truth of your being. Get to know who the divine knows you to be, because the divine knows you to be good. It's all the divine knows. And from there, anything is possible. All right, beloveds. Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. I'll be back with you between the 9 and 9:15. Take care of yourself. Know that you are loved, and I will see you next time.